I'm Rohma Mohsin, a student of Masters in Clinical Psychology here at the University of Central Punjab, and I will be with you for a couple of hours today. I take this privilege to warmly welcome you all to the International Conference of Substance Use Disorders 2022. On behalf of the Psychology Department, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, and the Phoenix Foundation for Research and Development. Thank you so much everyone for your precious and prized time. I would like to start the program with the recitation from the Holy Quran. I would like to request Saida Asma Bukhari to please join us on stage for the recitation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى وأن ليس وأن ليس للإنسان إلا ما سعى وأن سعيه سوف يرى ثم يجزاه الجزاء الأوفى صدق الله العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه वसल्लम। अल्लाह ताला के बाबरकत नाम से इब्तिदा करती हूँ जो बहुत मेहरबान और नहायत रहम फरमाने वाला है। ये कि कोई शख्स किसी के गुनाह का बोझ नहीं उठाएगा और इंसान के लिए वही है जिसकी उसने कोशिश की और अनकरीब उनकी कोशिशें देखी जाएंगी और उन्हें पूरा पूरा बदला दिया जाएगा। In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the beneficent, that no bearer of burdens will bear the burden of another, and that there is not for man except that good for which he strives, and that his effort is going to be seen. Then he will be recompensed for it with the fullest recompense. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ. Jazakallah.
Thank you so much, Saida Asma, for this beautiful recitation. Ladies and gentlemen, may I please request you all to rise for the national anthem. Thank you so much, everyone. You may all please be seated. It's an honor for the Department of Psychology to welcome our esteemed Pro-Rector of UCP, Dr. Nasser Ikram. I'm proud to share that he has a dynamic profile, and I would like to give a quick snapshot of few of his achievements. Dr. Nasser Ikram is a retired 2-star admiral in the Pakistan Navy. He has brought glory to our nation by receiving the Sitare Imtiaz and Hilale Imtiaz. He was bestowed with the Sword of Honor. Dr. Nasser is the recipient of the President Technology Medal, and he was also awarded the HEC Best University Teacher Award. Dr. Nasser has received 2 distinctions, one from the Royal Navy Engineering College and another from the National Defense University. He completed his doctorate in cryptology from Bradford University, UK, and also won the Best IEE Paper Award. An active researcher, Dr. Nasser Ikram has 63 publications and 3 books chapters to his credit. Dr. Nasser Ikram could not join us here today, but we have his virtual message to share with you all.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome all the distinguished guest speakers, professionals and researchers at this prestigious international conference on Substance Use Disorder 2022, organized by the Department of Psychology under the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences at the University of Central Punjab, in collaboration with the Phoenix Foundation for Research and Development. The theme of this conference has a significant bearing on the recent statistics reporting a higher prevalence of substance-related disorders in Pakistan and at global levels. Ladies and gentlemen, addiction and substance-related disorders can come in many different forms, including drug dependency, eating disorders, binge watching, or recovery from physical or psychological injuries. Demographics of Pakistan indicates that the biggest portion of population suffering from this are adolescents and adults. It becomes our utmost responsibility to shield them from all such disorders and habits that lead to getting addicted. Thus, the core purpose of this conference is to illuminate clinical graduates and postgraduate researchers on assessment, psychosocial correlation, and methods to curb the challenges posed by such addictions. Moreover, through this platform, the scientific community would get an opportunity to communicate and listen to the experts in this domain, and will be able to comprehend struggles faced by families and patients in the path of recovery and healing. Ultimately, it will open an awareness window on this prevailing issue of drug abuse and addiction that requires the utmost attention of think tanks and scientific communities. I wish the very best to the speakers and researchers who will be attending and participating in this conference, and cannot emphasize enough the role such platforms play in generating new research ideas and knowledge to cater to such important issues. I am sure that this collaborative research conference will contribute to the mental health of our youth as well. I am very grateful to Dr. Zaman Rafiq, the CEO of Phoenix Foundation for Research and Development, for his tremendous support that has been provided along with the Department of Psychology under the Faculty of Social Sciences in organizing this conference. This is surely a result of collaboration, rigorous efforts, teamwork, and planning. I thank you. I wish you a good time throughout this conference.
I would like to thank Dr. Nasser for his influential message. And now it is with pleasure that I introduce Dr. Zaman Rafiq. Dr. Zaman Rafiq has a rich profile. He's an international certified addiction professional. He has shown his mettle by working as a trainer at both international and national level. He has earned his stripes by working as a chief executive officer of the organization named Phoenix Foundation for Research and Development in Lahore. He also runs free counseling, rehab, and treatment center for women and children named Umeed Nisa. He has served the director of International Society of Substance Use Professionals. Sir, it is a sheer pleasure to be inviting you on the stage for the opening remarks on substance use disorders.
Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Professor Dr. Fahmida, Dean Faculty of Social Sciences, Professor Dr. Shazia, Head of Psychology Department, galaxy of deans, directors, as well as all those guests who has come across from Pakistan, and all the people who are there in Pakistan, in Lahore. Assalamu alaikum. And of course, Professor Dr. Kamran Niaz from UNODC, he is online as well, so I welcome him as well. First of all, I am really grateful to Faculty of Social Sciences to give a chance to talk about the most important, I would say, disease in Pakistan, which is spreading like a wildfire in the forest. And though when we look at the data of 2013 National Prevalence Report, which was given by UNODC, at that time it was reported that around 7.6 million of the people, they have ever used the drugs. And the drugs at that time were the cannabis, which was at the top, followed by opioids. But with the passage of time, and in the recent development, we did a rapid situational assessment of Lahore, and we found out that now the trend has changed. The trend has set up for mostly designer drugs, synthetic drugs, and they are towards a rise. And particularly when we talk about amphetamine, methamphetamine, and other such type of drugs, that is being used quite commonly across the Lahore city, particularly in the adolescents, particularly in the school-going or university-going students. And for that purpose, we felt that there is a need for that. And thank you to Dr. Imran, of course, from the CEO of Fountain House. I called him up about a couple of months before and we discussed that we should be going ahead, we should be talking about that how we can go ahead and we can plan something at the national level, at the provincial level, as well as at the district levels as well. And when I started talking about that, he said that, Dr. Sahab, we stand with you. And that was the first drop from Lahore. And I'm grateful to him. And the second drop was Professor Shazia, of course. When I contacted her, that we are interested to go ahead, and we are interested to go ahead and talk about substance use disorder. And she said, okay. And the third one was, of course, galaxy of the people from the Institute of Clinical Psychology, Karachi. I have special respect for them because they are the one who are the pioneer. The pioneer in such a way that they started the diploma in substance use disorder in Karachi. And that was the starting point. And that is what we think that all the universities, all the academia, they have to look into it. And there are, when we look around, of course, Professor Saima Dawood is also sitting over there. And we welcome you, madam. Thank you very much. When we look around, we see that the people, they are interested. The students, they are interested. We get a lot of calls from various students that we just want to go ahead and do researches with the people who are into it, people who are injecting the drugs. So this is how we are going to do. And it will be a relationship when we look around. And आमतौर पे मैं कहता होता हूँ कि हमारे दोस्त मोहम्मद अयूब, उसने शायद हम सबको धक्का दिया आज से कोई 10 साल पहले पाकिस्तान में इस्लामाबाद में आके, ही इज़ सीनियर एडवाइज़र टू कोलंबो प्लान, कि जी पाकिस्तान में वी शुड बी गोइंग अहेड and we should be talking about the evidence-based practices. And that was the first meeting I attended in, with the US Embassy in Islamabad. And we said, okay, we stand with you. And that was the starting point. And when we said that we are going to go for the credentialing, at that time I still remember we were about, in 2000, till 2014-15, we were about 5 or 6 people in Pakistan who were credentialed as certified for addiction treatment. But now, I really say that even during the COVID, they went for the online courses, and till now, the number has increased to 150. A special applause for Mr. Muhammad Ayub. So this is the starting point. We are all together. We are going to look into it. And when we look around, my friend who has come from Manchester especially for this conference, Professor Dr. Naeem Iqbal, and then Professor Nusrat would also be joining us shortly. And then these are the people who really want to go ahead and bring a really revolution for the mental health disorders. And for that, when we look around, there are people around. Dr. Nadeem, unfortunately, he couldn't make it to just now. He got his Omicron positive report today, unfortunately, so he has not turned up. And when we look upon Dr. Usman Hutiana, and when we look around Professor Uzma, when we look around Professor Noshin from Islamabad, Air University, of course, and other universities, now they are all interested. I've been there too in about 1 month before in NUMS University. They are also interested to go ahead for the substance use disorder. And this is the right time. We should go ahead and we should talk about the evidence-based practices. I won't take any more time of yours, and definitely you would like to learn from the people who are there from the abroad. And Dr. Rajwal from UNAIDS, I would also like to welcome you, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Rajwal, for making it up. He has come across all the way from Islamabad, since UNAIDS representative couldn't make it due to the security situation in Islamabad. So she said that I'm going to send number 2. So Dr. Rajwal, we are really grateful to you. So thank you very much once again, and over to now the organizers. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for enlightening us with this valuable information. And we are so elated that we have another distinguished speaker with us here right now, Dr. Iqbal Naeem. Dr. Iqbal Naeem is a consultant in general adult psychiatry with special interest in addictive behavior. He's an international fellow of American Psychiatric Association. He has extensive experience of dealing with working age group psychiatric disorders and complex issues in addiction psychiatry. Dr. Naeem has been working with the Royal College of Psychiatrists, London, and currently he is a member of Equivalence Committee within the Royal College of Psychiatrists as an evaluator for the applications for CSR purpose. He has won awards for his excellency in areas of clinical supervision and assessment and UK National Health Service. Sir, may I please call you on stage?
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, dear audience, Dr. Noor-Zaman Rafiq and all the organizing team and the Department of Psychology here at University of Central Punjab. I need to point out that I was called in surprise today because I was in the program for tomorrow, but now it makes me think about that how much we are prey to addiction in every aspect of life, because I was totally relying on the screens. I said I will be reviewing my talk tonight and be prepared tomorrow, so I left everything to the gadgets. But anyway, it is a test. So I would start saying that I think the efforts which Dr. Noor has just highlighted, they are really commendable. And I have been, since I was trained basically for my primary medical training, primary medical qualification, and then diploma in psychiatry. Since then until now, things have developed so much in every aspect, but at the same time, the challenges have raised. And I'm sure the teams and the professionals and the researchers, the clinicians have done their utmost best. However, the size of the problem, the matter increasing every day, not only the size and the bulk, but the nature of the problem for addiction. As you can realize, at one point we were only thinking about, say, opium, or cannabis, or bhang, these sort of things. Then it came to more refined forms of opioids in terms of heroin. And then now, as Dr. Noor just pointed out, the more kind of synthetic chemicals, like an example is spice. My area of interest basically is dual diagnosis, where I'm always interested in looking at addiction in combining with mental illness, which is an added and large kind of, huge kind of challenge. At the same time, special groups in the community, like young and adolescent people, pregnant kind of patients. It's not patients, sorry, the pregnancy is a special group. And when the patient comes with addiction, it is really a challenge. Plus special groups like vulnerable adults, like learning disability, or people living with so much social problems, which is not parallel with the developed world where we work. But here, some of the basic amenities of life, like housing, finance, employment, they are leading into these. What I really want to emphasize today, how the addiction problem has evolved over the decades, is that we are looking at not only chemical addiction, but the behavioral addictions have evolved in a more difficult and challenging way. One of them, we all know that how much fraction or proportionate of the society, without realizing, have become addicted to the screens. Could be your mobile phone, your iPad, you name it, and the video games. On one hand, this is a necessity of the day. We cannot live without it, IT. But at the same time, we have to realize that either wrong use deliberately or inadvertently, people slip into addiction very quickly. More important, as I talked about special groups, I think our younger generation who have born into the world of digitalization, world of IT, right from the beginning. We used to go to school and we have to show the emphasis on the handwriting, to improve handwriting. I remember the teacher would say that you will get extra 5 marks if you have a good handwriting. So everybody will try. Nowadays, you don't have to bother. The keyboard does everything for you, beautiful fonts, etc. So they are the new generation born into that. Then their communication is gone into social media. Okay. And now what I'm just going to, before I finish, apart from that, the video games have a much more impact on the younger generation because due to being addiction, due to having access on mobile phones or the screens, the youngsters or even the schools or outer schools have stopped going into playground or playing physical sports rather than getting into more and more into video games. And video games, the 90% of them are addicted who access to video games. It is not the addiction, but the content of video games, which is alarming. I'm sure you all know, but we were alarmed being out on another part of the world when a 14-year-old boy murdered 3 siblings and his mother under the influence of a video game. So this is not specific to here. This is the challenge for modern world as well. We are living in a global village. So when we access the same game which youngsters are playing in, say, New York or in Tokyo, or the children in Lahore, the problems are the same. We have other social problems with it. So our challenge is bigger. And this is, believe me, this is a hidden pandemic which we do not realize yet. It is the content of video games, mostly you can see violence, and you never know what kids are assessing. It could be pornography, could be violence. It's only, and then the complications of this, impact is on social contacts. Your communication is poor, more relying on screens or digital communication, you don't have social skills. The relationship or sensitivity about the relationships in the families and out of the families, between friends, is getting so much fragmented and damaged, which is a challenge. So it's just to highlight, but we have to think about it, all the specialists and experts, researchers, clinicians, to keep in mind that this is the problem which I would like to call as hidden pandemic, and it's going to escalate further. The generation today who are in, say, secondary school, in the next 10, 15 years, they are going to take the control of our society. They're going to be the kind of in, teaching, leadership in politics, in the country, the driving. So we have to think about these group of people very seriously, and not about them. We all, the adults. And I'm not saying that we are out of it. We are also. We have to think about what is more important about the future, and it poses a big challenge, a big question, and task for us, the experts, today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Sir, it was an honor for us to hear from you. Thank you so much for your gracious presence today. Ladies and gentlemen, we rarely get this kind of opportunity to hear the thoughts of eminent speakers who have cutting-edge knowledge. And without further ado, now I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Kamran Niaz. Dr. Kamran Niaz is an epidemiologist and is associated with the United Nations Research Branch Office on Drugs and Crime. He has made enormous contributions to the UNODC annual publication, the World Drug Report. He has over 25 years of extensive experience in epidemiology of substance use, AIDS, and HIV. Dr. Kamran will be joining us live from the capital city of Islamabad.
I especially want to congratulate Dr. Musliman and the Department of Psychology who have organized this conference. It's good to see all the eager scholars sitting in the audience who want to listen to discussions about substance use, drug use, and drug use disorders. I'm not much of a speaker, so what I have said is a short presentation based on the work that we do every year, which comes out in the form of the World Drug Report, which is published every year in the month of June. As we are currently working on the 2022 edition of the World Drug Report, I will present to you only the findings from the last year's World Drug Report 2021. So just to highlight to you, nearly 5% of the global population aged 15 to 64 are estimated to have used speed drug in the past year. And this prevalence and the number of people using drugs who had used drugs in the past year has risen by nearly 22%. So in 2021, we had estimated that there were around 275 million people who had used drugs in the previous year, and among them around 11% of them, or around 36 million people, were suffering from drug use disorders. Last year, we were also able to do, based on some special requests, to do some projections of how the drug problem will increase in the next decade or so. Also to match it with the Sustainable Development Goals agenda, which also has a deadline of 2030. So what we had estimated that was that nearly 11% of the global number of people will be, there would be an 11% increase in the global number of people using drugs annually, which would become mostly just by the population growth. And this would be a scenario where there will be no interventions to address the global drug problem, and only taking into account the population growth and not any other factor which may contribute to substance use. Africa had stood out as one region where we saw that we estimated that it would face the most growth in number of people using drugs, but knowing that Asia has such a large population, globally the impact of increasing drug use would be much higher in Asia. Also, if you look at how would we increase if we distribute the countries by low or middle income, we estimated that there would be actually a slight decline in high-income countries, but a major increase in middle and low-income countries in the number of people using drugs. So that's something of concern, which kind of shows why it is important that middle and low-income countries need to focus more on addressing the drug problems than high-income countries. If you look at the global burden of disease in terms of the number of people living with disability and and deaths due premature deaths due to substance use or drug use, we estimate that there were nearly 42 million healthy years of life lost due to drug use. Most of them attributed to drug use disorders and maybe opioid use disorder. And there were nearly 500,000 deaths that were attributed to drug use disorders, and again maybe to opioids. So again, you have to see also take into account the global burden of disease due to drug use and drug use disorders. We estimate that there are 11.2 million people who inject drugs, out of which nearly half of them are living with hepatitis C, and about 1.4 million are living with HIV, and around 1.2 million of those who inject drugs are living both with HIV and hepatitis C, which again calls for interventions to address this increasing epidemic, or rather the dual epidemic of people using drugs, people injecting drugs, and then living with HIV and hepatitis C. This may not come out as very clearly to the audience, but this actually shows the distribution of people who inject drugs, who are living, the prevalence of hepatitis C and HIV among those who inject drugs. No, I can point out to you is that Southwest Asia, which is Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran, is a region which has a high prevalence, or rather more than high prevalence, a high number of people who inject drugs, but has one of the highest prevalence of people living with HIV globally, and the same goes to the prevalence of people injecting drugs and living with hepatitis C. Again, if you look at the burden of disease attributed to hepatitis C, we find that the burden of disease, or the prevalence of hepatitis C among people who inject drugs is 37% more than what you find in the general population. And especially with regard to daily adjusted, disability adjusted life years, or the healthy years of life lost due to premature death and disability among people who use drugs and inject drugs are attributed to hepatitis C. So there is hepatitis C is an additional burden of disease for people who use and inject drugs. And that's one of the areas that is largely unaddressed in most countries around the world. This map kind of like summarizes for you the global extent of what is the distribution of the drug problem globally. And knowing that cannabis is the most common drug and is kind of like equally spread all over the world, it's not shown in this map, but you see that certain parts of the world are characterized by a certain problem. For instance, if you look at South America, that is characterized by cocaine use and cocaine use disorders. But if you look at the area, especially Southwest Asia and Southeast Asia, that is characterized by a high prevalence of opioid use, as I had said before, a high prevalence of people who inject drugs and live with HIV, as well as an emerging problem of amphetamine type substances, especially methamphetamine in its various forms. Although, cannabis is kind of like literally the most commonly used substance globally. We estimate that there are about 200 million people who used cannabis in the past year. Cannabis use is more common among, or more used among adolescents and young adults, and young adults. And what we also see is that cannabis use is also increasing globally. And this is kind of interesting because on the one hand, you see in most parts of the world, there is a growing perception, especially among young people, that regular use of cannabis has less harms per se, whereas in fact what we are seeing that the cannabis products that you see currently are much more harmful than what you would have seen like earlier in the 70s, and that is made mostly in terms of the THC contents of the cannabis products, which have kind of like nearly doubled or tripled in different parts of the world, making cannabis much more harmful substance than any other. And that is also seen globally from the number of people who are accessing drug treatment services, and there you see a large proportion of people who are accessing treatment services for cannabis use disorders in many regions globally. Although you see opioids, for instance, as a major substance for which people are seeking treatment in Asia, but like if you look at the other regions, you see cannabis standing out along with other substances. And as people have already talked, we see an emergence of synthetic substances, where we see an increased use of crystalline methamphetamine in East and Southeast Asia. There's also an emerging market for methamphetamine in Southwest Asia. And we see an increase of pharmaceutical opioids in North America, especially fentanyl, which are much more potent than any other opioid that we have seen. And those are also contributing to an increase in overdose deaths. People have talked about an emergence of synthetic drugs. So methamphetamine as one example, and many of the pharmaceutical opioids as another example. But we also have to keep in mind that these substances have not replaced the conventional substances, for instance, heroin and and cannabis and cocaine that were there earlier in the market. These have come along with those substances. So what you see is now an increasing complexity of the drug scene and the drug problem than what we used to see 2 decades ago or so. This was a slide more to show like how how drug use had changed during the early months of the corona pandemic. And what we had seen was that there was an increase in alcohol and cannabis use, as well as misuse of pharmaceutical opioids and tranquilizers among people who use drugs, as opposed to substances such as cocaine and opiates, which had to do more with people not being able to go out. But this has changed, and now we are back to what it used to be before. This is just a slide to show you, Dr. Zaman has already mentioned, The last survey that we were able to do with the government of Pakistan was in 2013, which kind of showed that nearly more than 6% of the population in Pakistan, the adult population, had used any drug in the past year, where cannabis was the most common substance. But keep in mind that the prevalence of opioid use, which is 2.4% of the population, including use of heroin and non-lethal use of pharmaceutical opioids, is one of the highest globally. That was in 2013. And now this would have been compounded further by the emergence of and concomitant use of synthetic substances such as methamphetamine, which we know through anecdotal information has spread widely in the population. Also, I may point out that contrary to the common belief, most of the drug use that was found among young adults, 25 and older in Pakistan, and not among adolescents. I wish if we ever have an opportunity to do a school survey in Pakistan or a survey among young people that could give us an idea of the extent of drug use in the young population. But so far, whatever we have heard about the extent of drug use among young people, and especially among adolescents, is more of an anecdotal information and not based on any evidence. This is my final slide, which I just wanted to show because you are mostly, I guess, students of psychology. This kind of like just shows the balance between the various factors which we call as the protective and risk factors for substance use. And this balance essentially determines whether people would initiate substance use, would lead on to harmful use of substances, and suffer from substance use disorders. And just to highlight, there are individual level factors, there are micro-influences and macro-environmental factors which all come into play and make a person vulnerable to substance use, initiation of substance use, and progression to harmful use of substances or substance use disorders. I don't need to go into all of these factors that are listed there, but you can look these up in some of our publications, but also some of the literature also points this out. With this, I thank you for giving me an opportunity to present to you. I'm also ready to answer any question now or later, or you can always write to me at this email address. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Kamran, for your indispensable information. Now, I would like to honor another esteemed guest, Brigadier Rashid Minhas. Brigadier Rashid Minhas is the pride of our nation and is currently serving as the Director General, Anti-Narcotics Force. Sir, it is an honor for us to have you here. Sir, will you please join us on stage?
With the permission of the pro-rectors, thank you very much. It's indeed an honor for me to be here and talking to this august house, which is flourished with lot many celebrities. Ayub Sahab, thank you very much. Murtaza Sahab, I cannot forget Fountain House. I heard that we have the representation of even aid also, and then a lot of respectable guests. But above all, thank you to Phoenix Foundation Research Development Organization, because of whom that I'm standing here. I've been privileged to stand here. Right, I've been told that I can get away from the traditional format of my talk, and I've been allowed to explain to you that I do not intend talking to you more than 5-6 minutes, and then rest of the time that is there at my disposal, I leave it to you for your questions that I can and I may answer. Under the ministry, we have got a force, ANF Pakistan, which is headed by a Major General from Pakistan Army. Current Director General is Major General Ghulam Shabir Narejo. And then as the names are of the provinces, so are the names of the regional directorates. So each province has a regional directorate, like RDKP, RD Sindh, RD Balochistan, but in Punjab we've got 2 directorates. Less Pindi division, complete Punjab, it falls in my responsibility. And then we've got Regional Directorate North, which is looking after Pindi division and the northern areas. What we do 3 things. 1, cutting the supply. Cutting the supply through active enforcement operations. For that, we have to follow the enactment of the law, that is CNS Act, under the framework of which we operate. So we catch the criminals, we get them convicted, tried in the special CNS courts. So enforcement is one operation. Then we have the international cooperation. International cooperation with around the globe, with all the countries. And then we have a challenge against the demand, which we do through the motions and the seminars and the functions. The way this is one part of drug demand reduction program, awareness program. So we collaborate with all the NGOs, with all the educational institutions, and then we it is an embedded function with us. So cutting supply and cutting demand, both ways. One is active enforcement and second is through the sensitization campaign, and then international cooperation. What we have been doing is that we have, in the prevailing environment in all over Pakistan, we have tapped a lot of seizures. We have made a lot of seizures. ANF primarily, although the function is there to be effective everywhere, and I am assisted with a force all over Punjab. It is in a round figures, if you compare, in a round figures, I've got 600 people all over Punjab. And we have an organizational function within which we have our police stations, dedicated police stations. We have a police station at Sialkot, Mianwali, Multan, Faisalabad, and 2 police stations at Lahore. And then we also have our presence around all the international airports. So we've got 4 international airports here: Multan, we have got Faisalabad, and then we have got airport at Islamabad and Lahore. Besides this, all the border crossing points, we have the presence there. And last but not the least, we have our presence around all the dry ports all over Punjab. So that is the function here. The last part of my talk, what do I need from you is, look, when we are operating, when we are doing, we are chasing, we are cutting the supply in the economics terms, the supply and demand both are interlinked. So cutting the supply may not pay those dividends which we require unless we focus towards the demand. So the demand can only be addressed if there is a willingness for the people to listen to it. How much is the enormity of the challenge? Where do we stand today while fighting against this menace? So when I took over 2 years plus ago, so this was an aspect where I thought that I need to lay more emphasis and priority. This by no means, it means that I do not have a focus towards active operations and enforcement operations, where I can claim that last year ANF Punjab was number 1 in maximum number of seizures all over Pakistan. So on that domain, we also intensified our efforts, but at the same time, we made a surge in raising it as a cause and putting this issue and a predicament that is faced with the society, before, as a case study, before you all respectable audience. It has paid us a lot of dividends. Demand, where it has spread and people are talking that it has spread into the institutions, it has spread into the various communities. Well, I do not deny that it is not there, but at the same time, we have also enhanced our mechanism whereby we can make a check on these things. We are trying our level best to create awareness. Through awareness, I believe that without the support of the nation, without the support of the public, without the support of the community, no operation, may it be in the war or anywhere, can succeed unless you support, unless you join your hands with us. When I visit the universities, when I visit the educational institutions, I visit to spread this as a cause. But the motive is not to, seek any information about anything. I do not need, my organization does not need any information. We are doing our best in this field to cultivate our resources. But we only need your will, your conviction in your heart to say no to drugs. If you can say no to drugs, demand goes down. And then within that is the capacity that I expect from you. How much is the capacity? I do not need you to go out and start fighting with the others who are indulged into this. First, save yourself. That is the primary criteria. And second, as with the tears of the faith, if you have the capacity, you can take it as a cause the way I am taking it as a cause. आप भी उसी तरीके से इसको लेके चल सकते हैं. You can spread the aroma through your personality, through your communication, but it would come through the power of observation. And if you think that it is a predicament faced in the society and deteriorating the values of the society, you must rise to this and play your role in the society, because without the society, as I had earlier said, we are none. We can do nothing. Thank you very much. Now, I hope so my 5 minutes are over. I am open to the questions if you have any, sir.
I'm Anna from, I'm a clinical psychologist, sir. I highlighted 2 points from your whole discussion. The first one was, you said that we have to work on demand before we break down the chains. So I do agree that definitely you are saying it 100% correct. But we are sitting in a university setting. If we say like more than half of the total population of Pakistan is not in universities, like they are just outside. So what steps can we take as a nation that we can make them aware about the harmful effects, or about how to stop them from the drugs, how we can play our part? And second, you said that we only can control our homes. Like आप घरों में जाके, definitely you are right कि हम हर किसी privacy and all this and that कि घरों में जाके हम check नहीं कर सकते. But sir, what about the social settings जिनमें we are aware that there are drugs, they are given the drugs or taken the drugs. So what about them?
That's all?
Yeah.
Okay. I need to explain here 2 things here. One is, what do we mean by cutting supply? Supply means those suppliers who are actually spreading the narcotics into the society, from where they are manufactured, and from that point onwards into the masses when it is distributed. I am hinging upon all my efforts in nabbing those and carrying out my active operations. Active operation means rule of law. Within that, I have to operate. My people cultivate the sources, my people establish the, whatever the mechanism is there in place. Although I do not share much in the media, but on daily basis there are operations. तो वो जो एक्टिव ऑपरेशंस हम करते हैं, फिजिकल ऑपरेशन करते हैं, जेल में डालते हैं, ट्राई करते हैं, इसको हम कह सकते हैं कि वी आर कटिंग द सप्लाई थ्रू द इन्फोर्समेंट. But when it comes to the demand, that falls in the domain of the drug demand reduction, and it is not possible unless we address it through the scientific based principle. All right, मैं आपके पास आके बातचीत कर जाऊंगा, सब कुछ कर जाऊंगा, ये एक है तरीका. दूसरा तरीका है कि what I am saying, it is homed into your heart and mind and soul, and then through an institutional way, through innovative way, how best you can adjust it within your capacity and mechanism. For example, I go to one of the university, वहाँ पे जाता हूँ, वहाँ पे they are they convinced कि yes यार हमें इसके खिलाफ लड़ना चाहिए. तो मैं उनको कहता हूँ yes what can we do, तो मैं उनको कहता हूँ ठीक है आप ऐसा करें अपने you put your house in order. उन्होंने कहा यार ये हमारा काम तो नहीं है. मैंने कहा नहीं, putting house in order means that you have to save yourself. Now with that, do you want me कि मैं अंदर आके आपके hostels को check करूँ? I should open your all the suitcases and start out. There is a system embedded into the administration. At the parental level, at the faculty level, at the administration level. You have to have those stringencies, those stringent measures within which you enforce the measures to make sure that this is curtailed. And that is through governing bodies. Now those governing bodies, नीचे से लेके ऊपर तक आपने लेके जानी है. आपने student unions आपने बनाई. We have a template already in place in GCU, in UMT. I'm sure यहाँ पे भी है, because I meet a lot of students from various fields here from UCP. मेरे पास आते हैं, वहाँ पे interaction भी होता है. तो this message is already coming into the. Now दूसरा है आपने कहा ये rising drugs. That was the second part. Now we need to understand कि वो हम there's a word mutation, there's a word variation, there's a word variant. So what is happening is that the trends of the drugs वो डेली एंड्रॉयड बेस के ऊपर अपग्रेड होते जा रहे हैं. किटकैट आया, किटकैट के बाद एप्पल, वो जो पाया आ गया, पाया के बाद पता नहीं कौन कौन से, और ये ओरियो आ गया, कौन कौन से वो अपग्रेड आने शुरू हो गए. यू स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम द कन्वेंशनल ड्रग्स, हैश, हेरोइन, इसके ऊपर चलने शुरू हो गए. हमने वहाँ पे पाबंदी लगानी शुरू कर दी. वी सेड नो, ये नहीं होगा. वी कॉट दिस. नाउ इट्स इन दिस टेक्नो एज, यू मस्ट अंडरस्टैंड दैट वी हैव गॉन technical in our innovations. Mother, can you imagine that a hash which is costing vis-a-vis, it's a पैसे की game है ना. If in 1 lakh rupees this complete table is filled with the drugs, एक ये है. दूसरा है in the same money 1 lakh rupees you can carry a small coupon kind of वो छोटी सी पुड़िया अपनी जेब में डाल देते हैं. Business is the same, motive is the same, but trend has changed. So innovations kept coming. लोगों ने, अभी आप ये बात करेंगे, go to the bridges, under the bridges you see lot of addicts. सारे कहते हैं जी कि ये नशा कर रहे हैं. Have you ever gone and studied कि yes, heroin भी लेते होंगे. I don't deny that. That addict, I went to Karachi. I went and visited those hospitals, rehab hospitals. यहाँ पे भी बहुत से लोग इसको सर्टिफाई करेंगे. What I am trying to say, गुटखा, cannot, you talking of गुटखा, okay, calm down into another variant. Petrol sniffing, इसको भी छोड़ दे. If you're talking, my daughter is always arguing with me at the cost of opening the nail polish. ठीक, नशा है भाई. When you are addicted, abuse करेंगे, एडिक्ट हो जाएंगे. और बताऊं, सारी उम्र अपने वाला साहब के मैं कहता था एक ही काम कराया करें, अपने जूते मेरे से पॉलिश करवाया करें. Anything, these are, और नहीं है, स्मथ बॉन्ड की इनहेलेशन, स्निफिंग, these are. अभी मुझे पता, मैं स्मथ बॉन्ड के ऊपर पर्चा दे दूं. But that's what is happening. Now various mutations are, they're popping up like this कि यार इसके अंदर इसको ऐसे बीच में कर दिया जाए, it will be very good capacity enhancer. Papers में नंबर बड़े अच्छे आएंगे. But then you start abusing it. then you start abusing it and then you get addicted because initially तो आपको ये बड़ा अच्छा लगता है, कफ सिरप की पूरी बोतल चढ़ा लेते हैं, बड़ा मज़ा आता है, but then you are not satisfied, then you go more towards achieving the same kind of a dopamine effect. Do not abuse your body. ये नशे, ये अवेयरनेस है, इसी अवेयरनेस को यहाँ पे बैठ के आपने आगे फैलाना है, एंड इट इज़ ओनली पॉसिबल, अदरवाइज ये आग तो हर घर के अंदर लगना शुरू हो गई है. आर यू टॉकिंग अबाउट ओनली दिस एडिक्शन? आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट डिजिटल एडिक्शन. रात को सबको खुदावंद कहने के बाद जब तक मैं मोबाइल को अपने सराहने पे लगा के ट्विटर के ऊपर सारे दिन की खबरें नहीं सुनता, मैनू नींद नहीं आती. व्हाट अ ललाबाई दैट आई हैव. That's a fact. We as a society we need to understand where we are falling prey to. We are falling prey to technology. We are falling prey to the addiction. We need to change our behaviors. Now, if you are asking me कि मैं आपकी उन parties के अंदर भी पहुंच जाऊं and I should be effective there at the parties, मैनू तो कोई मसला नहीं. But you know what will happen? So you know, I do have those raids on those parties as well. ऐसी बात नहीं है. My DG has said that start working from within rather than focusing towards the strategic seizures. इसको थोड़ा समझने की ज़रूरत है कि 600 की स्ट्रेंथ के साथ ना मैं ज़्यादा कोशिश करता था कि स्ट्रेटेजिक सीजर्स, बड़े बड़े सीजर्स के ऊपर जाऊं, ताकि वो जो नीचे आके 15 डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स के पास डिस्ट्रीब्यूट होना है, सो व्हाट आई डू इज़ मैं उसको वहीं पे चोक करूं. So we were doing that. In addition to that, I have been given नहीं नीचे भी, because जब नीचे आते हैं ना तो there is a fine line which we have to understand between a street crime and a drug operation. We need to understand that. That street crime, अभी we have got 185. I will not criticize any institution, but at the cost of saving my capacity to tell you what I am doing, that we have got more than 200,000 people or around 200,000 people of police deployed all over Punjab. जो हम सीजर्स कर रहे हैं, अगर उसके साथ उसको कंपैटिबिलिटी में जाएं तो फिर भी आप कहेंगे कि 600 people are doing more than what beyond their capacity, because हमारा फंक्शन जो है वो स्ट्रेटेजिक सीजर्स के ऊपर जाना है. बट नेवरदलेस 217 ग्राम नहीं 217 फॉर एग्जांपल एक्सटेसी पिल्स हैं, and they weigh about we know that they are weighing less than 100 and they will be granted bail. उसके बावजूद I am doing operation, मैं उसको करता हूँ और उतनी ही एफर्ट लग रही है जो कि मुझे 6 टन के सीजर पकड़ने में लग रही है. बट जहाँ पे भी होता है कल्टीवेट करता हूँ मैं उसको लेस देन 100 ग्राम्स के ऊपर भी पर्चा दे रहा हूँ, जो कि थोड़ा सोचने की बात है विद इन माई कैपेसिटी कि ANF इसके ऊपर भी. वाई? बिकॉज आपकी इस तरफ टू गिव अ मैसेज दैट कोई डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं है, छोटा केस है या बड़ा केस है. अभी देखें, मैं सिर्फ आपसे रिक्वेस्ट ये करूँगा, कैपेसिटी और एक्टिव ऑपरेशंस और इन ऑपरेशंस के ऊपर काम करने के लिए व्हाट वी आर डूइंग, आई एम प्लेजिंग योर सपोर्ट टू प्ले योर रोल सो एज टू इन्हेंस माई कैपेसिटी मैनीफोल्ड, बिकॉज ये स्टैट्स अगर आपके डिमांड अगर आप कम करते हैं, सप्लायर इज़ इन ट्रबल. मैं आपको बताऊं एक चीज़ जो यहाँ से यू शुड बी अवेयर ऑफ इट, ये सप्लायर के ट्रैप करने के आपको बहुत से इस माफिया के ट्रिक्स हैं. अगर आप यही साइकोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट फाउंटेन हाउस में चले जाए जहाँ के ये बॉसेस आर ऑलरेडी हियर, मियाँ बीवी दोनों आए हुए माशाल्लाह, इफ़ यू आस्क देम एंड इंटरेक्ट देम, यू विल कम टू नो कि ये जो इसमें आपको ट्रैप करने के तरीके वो आपने देखना है. आओ जी आपको नौकरी दे दी, बाहर के मुल्क आपको भिजवा रहे हैं जी, मुंडा जनाब गांव के अंदर से बड़ी अच्छी 2 लाख की नौकरी मिल गई है, ले जी आपका वीज़ा मैंने लगवा दिया, ये कर दिया वो कर दिया, एंड यू फॉल प्रे टू ऑल दीज अट्रैक्शंस. एंड व्हाट हैपन्स, ओए ये बैग कौन सा लेके जा रहे हो, बड़ा फटा हुआ बैग, यार देखो अभी तुम अफसर बन गए, व्हाट द हेल आर यू डूइंग, ओके आई गिफ्ट यू दिस बैग. अच्छा आप बाहर जा रहे हैं, ओके यार ये मेरा जो है ना, ये मेरे चाचे के लिए जो है ये सूट लेके चले जाना. एंड व्हेन यू गो टू द एयरपोर्ट एंड यू डोंट रियलाइज हाउ यू बीन प्लेड. सो माफिया इज एवरीवेयर. आपको मैं अगर ये सेंसिटाइज नहीं करूँगा, कल को आप बैग उठाएंगे, लो जी बैग मिल गया मैं लेके जाता हूँ, क्योंकि हम हर जगह पे माशाल्लाह मदद करने के लिए पहुँच जाते हैं. ये फैक्ट्स आपके सामने हमने अवेयरनेस डोमेन के अंदर रखने हैं, that you don't fall prey to all these gimmicks of the mafia and the suppliers who are trying to trap you. And the last thing that you must know out of this question that reminds me is that getting addicted is one thing. Getting bankrupted at the end of, because of this, पूरी फैमिली सड़क पे आ जाएगी आपका इलाज कराते कराते. अगर मैं आपसे इसके ये भी एक, since we have got dearth of facilities, health facilities, तो आप इसका कभी जाके भी मैं नहीं कोट करूँगा, because I am here, you know, live in this program with you, so I cannot quote those stats. लेकिन आप जाएं ज़रा बाहर से जाके, I can only hint you how expensive is the treatment of this rehabilitation. I won't name a person, he quit smoking, for 4 years he quit smoking. And 5th year, normal smoking, permissible nicotine level, 5th year he gets a relapse. अगर उसका है तो how much are the chances of the relapse for this addiction? And then law, hand of law, when they actually nab you as a supplier, as a facilitator, क्या होगा? Your complete property is seized. You have to justify, is it the proceed of the crime for which you have been nabbed, or is it inherited, or is it through the lawful means? So, please, ये यूनिवर्सिटी के अंदर I request to all of you कि इसमें अपना रोल प्ले करें अपने साइड में, इसको एज अ कॉज स्प्रेड दिस. पीपल नीड टू नो कि ड्रग्स के अंदर हम कैसे इसके अंदर पड़ जाते हैं. ठीक है जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच. आई थिंक वो जो लास्ट क्वेश्चन वाला भी टाइम मैंने इसी में पूरा कर दिया है, तो इट्स अ प्लेयर इंटरेक्टिंग यू. बाकी ये है कि we have got our office is open for the insightful guidance by my officers and myself. I interact with the people there. तो आपके इंटर्नशिप प्रोग्राम्स भी होते हैं. सर आपका शुक्रिया कि आपने मुझे मौका दिया यहाँ पे बोलने के लिए. थैंक यू वेरी मच लेडीज़ एंड जेंटलमैन.
Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to introduce Dr. Prapapan Chuncherian. Dr. Prapapan Chuncherian is a Program Director of Master of Arts in Addiction Studies at the Institute for Health Development, Mahidol University, Thailand. She earned her PhD in Neuroscience and served as a research fellow at Harvard Graduate School of Education, USA. She is a member of the editorial board of Journal of Public Health and Development. She is also the member of Asian Pacific Society for Neurochemistry. Dr. Prapapan will be joining us live from Thailand.
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes, we can all hear you.
Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear.
So, can you please see my slide?
We can all see your slides, ma'am.
The former speaker talked about the importance to solve the problem of drug addiction. So, I would like to continue how to produce the qualified addiction professional via the university. So, this is a group of networking among addiction professionals in Asia Pacific region. So, including many universities in Pakistan and for the Foundation of the May I brief about the ICUD? The ICUD is an international consortium of universities for drug demand reduction. This group set up from the key question raised by the university partner how to develop academic program in addiction study, because the addiction problem is very, very important in our region. We need addiction professionals, so university is very important. And then we ask the key question, how to create a new program, how to generate student demand, how to create a demand in the marketplace. So the INL, or International Narcotic Law Enforcement Affairs, is programs that engage the federal plan by Mr. Fabian Kao, the former director of ICCA. organized the meeting on March 2016 at Hawaii. We invited universities from North America, Asia, Middle East, Latin America, and Caribbean and Europe. This has the benefit of such a network ICUDDR. And here is the founder group of ICUDDR since 2016. The objective of our group that conduct a mapping of the current global organization and network addressing substance use, identify the possible networking, organization programs, for opportunities for interaction between organization networks. You see in this picture all of the celebrities from Turkey have joined us and signed with ICUD as a member. So here is the professionalization of the staff. If you conduct a program, you should support your staff ongoing to be professional education. Start by identifying the potential of workforce and then conduct the training, get credentialing, and finally during or beyond the professional education. Our program established in 2004, we are a semester system. Program curriculum composed of the 36 credits are required with a course of 18 credits, elective 6 and thesis 12 credits. The evaluation and graduation requirement that we, under the regulation of Metropolitan University, that the student have to register the requirement minimum course, complete with the 36 credit with the minimum GPA of 3.0, have passed English proficiency, and have completed the thesis research and passed the oral thesis examination. So in our program, one important person is stakeholder, because the stakeholder or community partner can help the program up to date and sustainable. The Development Program Committee is selected from the stakeholder, may be alumni, graduate, employers, entrepreneurs. The stakeholder are requested to provide useful information to enhance program quality of some courses which are necessary for students are maintained with fundamental knowledge and activities are decided based on comments and feedback, because we need a qualified of the academic professional to return to the society. So our program composed of the board of director of the program that composed of the faculty staff as the program director, national expert from the government, such as head of the department or chief of department from Ministry of Public Health, representative from Narcotic Control Board, Ministry of Justice, Royal Thai Army, representative from Thailand Research Fund, expert from other universities. So this is a board of directors that can help our program control the quality and get more experience for the student. And this is the course structure of our program that composed of the theory, practicum, research, and seminar. All of the students have to register practicum to be internship in time. And then we have 7 applications center under Department of Medical Services, Ministry of Public Health. And we have a luxury rehab center for the international student, which is the practical, where certified by fully licensed from the Ministry of Public Health in Oakland and from alcohol rehab issue. So our students have to taste the practicum and stay in the community. As the former speaker told that the community is very important to help us to prevent the new cases. So the students have to learn in the community at least 1 month. But the students have to stay in the facility or the drug maintenance center 2 months. So finally, the student have to register for 3 months in practicum course. We have the scholarship, full scholarship. You see this lady, Luna, from Pakistan. She is the student finished from our program this year. GPA. She got the scholarship from the private center in Thailand that give her full scholarship. And we have the scholarship from public health also. We have the partial scholarship from the community. All of the students who stay in the community no pay anything. The community leader will provide meal, accommodation, and other activities. The students have to practice as a staff and complete assignment. The institution has to assign with the mentor will support and evaluation together with the course director. And practicum regardless the community leader skill include engagement, communication, counseling, treatment prevention, and networking also. The graduate identity from our program that join the addiction professional and return to the society. All of the graduate program have to have the leadership, broad perspective for the prevention and elaboration of addiction problem, therapy, and rehabilitation of addiction, conducting research in this discipline. We didn't have only networking among national or country, but we have the collaboration with ICE or right now we name for GCCC or GGC, GCCC or GCCC, Global Credentialing and Certification. I am joined as a commissioner and the chair of the training committee since 2012 until now, and a regional director of ICU. They are Asia Pacific. If University of Punjab have the course and would like to be a member of you would like to adopt the duties in your course, but you have a course structure. It is easily that you can share that your course similar as UGC, like Mahidol University, we have a course of addiction, theory of addiction, pharmacology of in addiction, similar as the UGC course one that have the continuum of the addiction and principle of addiction. And finally, after conduct the program with the quality and engage the community and partnership to help your student complete the assignment and complete the requirement of the program. Our program can pass the audit from ASEAN University Networking Quality Assurance also. Because we thought that the drug abuse is a major health problem. And in our region, addiction is not only hazard health, but it is also affect all problems, include social problem, economic problem, human rights, and other problem. The student will learn all of the effect. In addition, the effect, it is not only affect hazard on health, but affect the relationship among nations. Focusing this problem, all of the documents, concern, and make the political will to solve them. For example, setting up the laws and regulation, prevention, detoxification, rehabilitation. But the treatment in addiction is not simple. Our program understand and all of the partnership understand treatment is not simple. That's the reason why we try to conduct the complete course, elective course, and practical course. Because addiction is a chronic disease, we trust, and it is related behavior and social cultural context also. Most clients need long-term or repeated holistic care. So we need more evidence support, service, and policy. The university is very important role to initiate research, training, and mapping standardization and of the addiction professional. So, last but not least, I'm proud to be a member of ICU Media and proud to networking with all of you as a member of ICU Media. We have more activity, support, goal, and strategy among our region. I hope all of us are a family of addiction professionals. I think in the near future we will collaborate and work together and challenge the addiction problem. We may make the collaboration and inform the research altogether for solve some drug demand and help reduce the demand on addiction and behavior addiction also. So this is the eloquently transmitted that true success is not in learning, but in its application to the benefit of mankind. I hope all of the addiction professionals learn it by your heart that true success is not alone, but it is application to the benefit of mankind. Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prabhakun, for your invaluable experience.
Yes, thank you. I hope you'll see in the future in person. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Rajwal, Senior Program Advisor, Country Representative, UN 8. Sir, I would like to ask you to come on the stage to say a few words.
औज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश्शैतानिर्रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। सबसे पहले तो मैं यूनिवर्सिटी के इंतज़ामिया फोनिक्स फाउंडेशन का इंतहाई मशकूर हूँ कि उन्होंने यूएनएड्स को यहाँ पे दावत दी और यकीनन एएनएफ ने तो ड्रग के हवाले से बात की है, लेकिन हमारी जो ज़िम्मेदारियाँ है वो ड्रग की वजह से जो अनसेफ इंजेक्शन प्रैक्टिसेस की वजह से जो अमराज फैल रहे हैं, तो मेरी फोकस उसी पे रहेगी। और वो अमराज में ज़्यादातर तो आपको पता होगा, लेकिन हमारे लिए जो दर्द और दुख का बायस बन रही है वो है HIV और हेपेटाइटिस B और C। तो मुझे इस पे ज़्यादा खुशी होगी कि अगर हम बजाय एक तरफा लेक्चर डिलीवर कर ले, तो अगर हम चंद सवाल और जवाबात की शक्ल में कर ले तो वो ज़्यादा बेहतर होगा। लेकिन इससे पहले कि मैं सवाल या जवाब ले लूँ, तो उसमें मैं ज़रा से HIV एड्स की सूरत हाल पर पाकिस्तान में बात करना चाहता हूँ कि आज से कुछ 1986 में कराची से रुकन कौमी असम्बली शाह बलीगुद्दीन साहब थे। उन्होंने कौमी असम्बली में एक सवाल पूछा था कि इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में HIV एड्स की क्या सूरत हाल है। तो कौमी असम्बली को वजारत सेहत ने आगाह किया था कि इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में कोई भी HIV एड्स का मरीज़ नहीं पाया जाता, लेकिन साथ दूसरे जुमले में ये भी लिखा था कि हमारी मजहबी इक़दार और हमारे अखलाक़ियात जो है HIV एड्स को पाकिस्तान में आने की इजाज़त कभी नहीं देगी। लेकिन मैं बड़े दर्द और दुख के साथ कहना चाहता हूँ कि आज सूरत हाल उसके बरअक्स है और पाकिस्तान में इस वक्त HIV एड्स की मरीज़ों की तादाद सैकड़ों और हज़ारों से निकल कर लाखों तक पहुँच चुकी है। और वो किन लोगों में मौजूद है, इस वक्त हमारी खुशकिस्मती कि वो एक महदूद तबके में फैली हुई है, लेकिन उस तबके तक महदूद रहने के कोई असरात नज़र नहीं आ रहे और वो आप जैसे यंग बच्चों में ट्रांसमिट होने के लिए मतलब है कि हर किस्म के पर तोल चुकी है। तो मेरी यही कोशिश रहेगी कि यार हम HIV एड्स से बचाव के कैसे कर सके। तो सबसे पहले जो HIV एड्स के 2 वजूहात पाकिस्तान में मौजूद है वो है नंबर 1 फर्स्ट एंड फॉरमोस्ट अनसेफ इंजेक्शन प्रैक्टिसेस जो है, और अनसेफ इंजेक्टिंग प्रैक्टिसेस दिन ब दिन बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, और हमारी आजकल जो प्रिवेलेंस रेट इंजेक्टिंग ड्रग यूज़र में चल रही है तो वो 38.4% है। इस तरह जो दूसरी दुख और दर्द और जो ख़ासकर जवानों के साथ मतलब है कि मुंसलिक है वो ये है कि अनप्रोटेक्टेड सेक्सुअल बिहेवियर्स। यही 2 मेन वजह है जो पाकिस्तान में HIV एड्स के लिए हर किस्म के रास्ते हमवार कर रही है। तो हमारे आप लोगों से ब्रिगेडियर साहब ने बड़े अच्छी बात की है कि यार हम इसमें कुछ नहीं कर सकते। हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते जब तक हमारे कल्चर और बिहेवियर चेंज में कुछ डेवलप ना हो, तो हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते। न कोई महकमा न कोई इदारा कर सकता है। ये एक सिंगल फ़र्द और सिंगल महकमे का काम नहीं है, बल्कि मल्टी सेक्टोरल और जॉइंट कोलाबोरेटिव एफर्ट इसके लिए चाहिए, जिसमें सबसे ज़्यादा जो जिम्मेदारी आयत होती है, जो हमारे सामने लोग बैठे हुए, जो ये आज बच्चे बैठे हुए, इन पर सबसे ज़्यादा जिम्मेदारी बैठी है, जो असातिज़ा कराम है और जो अकाबिरीन महकमा तालीम के, इन पर सबसे बड़ी जिम्मेदारी बनती है। तो यही चंद बातें मैंने कहनी थी। मैं अपनी तरफ से और अपने UNAIDS की कंट्री डायरेक्टर की तरफ से एक बार दोबारा अकाबिरीन यूनिवर्सिटी का और मतलब है कि इंतज़ामिया का और फोनिक्स फाउंडेशन का इंतहाई मशकूर हूँ कि उन्होंने हमें ये मौका फराहम किया है। हम कोशिश करेंगे हम और यूनिवर्सिटियों तक अपनी दायरा कार बढ़ा दें और जितने मैक्सिमम पॉसिबल है यूनिवर्सिटियों में अवेयरनेस सेशंस कर ले।
Here we come to the concluding part of today's session. Without much ado, it would be an utmost honor for me to now introduce our esteemed Dean of Arts and Social Sciences, Dr. Fahmida Sultana. Dr. Sultana has a PhD in English Literature from Tufts University, USA. Dr. Sultana has had a privilege of teaching at Harvard University and the University of Tennessee. She is the chairperson and member of several committees and associations. She is also the member of the Punjab Public Service Commission's Evaluation Committee. Ma'am, with utmost respect, I would like to request you on the stage to please extend a vote of thanks. Let us all give her a warm round of applause.
Honorable Prorector, distinguished guests, experts, international speakers, my colleagues and dear students. On behalf of the FASS and the entire psychology department, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers, panelists, and guests for sharing their research work and valuable thoughts in today's inaugural session. My sincere thanks to all the distinguished delegates from around the world for expounding the latest knowledge, techniques, and treatments to deal with mental health and substance abuse disorders, which are rising on a frightening scale in the rapidly changing societies of South Asia, precariously endangering the socio-economic and moral fabric of these societies, despite a strong familial and communal culture of the Asian societies, which provide greater emotional and economic cushioning to its members compared to the individualistic societies of Europe and America. Most of the time, these problems are ignored because lots of stigma is attached to them. Since mental health problems and accompanying substance abuse is caused by a complex interplay of factors, which includes genetics, environmental, emotional, and psychological traumas, knowing the underlying causes of these disorders is crucial in mitigating this menace. Instead of ignoring this problem and turning blind eye to it, we need to change the thinking and build a network of support system to help the victims. A little help and better treatment can put life of the victims back on track and make them productive and useful members of society. I hope our effort in highlighting this problem in this conference will contribute revising and updating policies and mechanisms required to deal with this issue. In the end, I would like to thank the members of organizing committee and, in particular, the Phoenix Foundation for Research and Development, headed by Dr. Noor Zama, who have done a wonderful job in such a short time under the leadership of Dr. Shazia, HOD of Psychology Department. Ladies and gentlemen, an event like this requires lots of planning and resource mobilization. This could not have been possible without the dedication and hard work of the team members who have turned the idea of holding an international conference into a reality. Once again, my sincere thanks to all the speakers and participants. We thank you for being us with this evening. I hope you have enjoyed today's sessions and found them productive and useful. Thanks again.
Respected guest speakers, keynote speakers, and the organizing committee, I would like you all to please join us on the stage for the photograph. We need to get a group photograph here. Can you all please join us?
I'm Zahra Arshad, a student of Masters in Clinical Psychology, and I will be your host from here on. Now it's time to proceed towards panel discussion. Our moderator for panel discussion is Dr. Shazia Hassan, the head of Department of Psychology here at University of Central Punjab. And on the panel, we have Professor Dr. Nusrat Hussain. We have Dr. Iqbal Naeem, Consultant General Adult Psychiatrist. We have Dr. Uzma Ali, Director, Institute of Clinical Psychology, University of Karachi. We have Dr. Usman Amin Hutiana, Head of Department, Behavioral Sciences and Psychiatry, and Mr. Muhammad Ayub, Senior Advisor, Colombo Plan. Please start the panel discussion.
Thank you so much, Zahra. Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
I'm so very happy कि आज इधर आया मैं और काफ़ी सीखने को मिला और जो मैंने अनफॉर्चुनेटली थोड़ा लेट आया था तो 3 स्पीकर्स को सुना और 3 स्पीकर्स के कुछ कंसिस्टेंट से मैसेजेस थे एंड दैट इज़ इम्पॉर्टेंट टू लुक एट। ये कोई नई बात नहीं है कि जी सब्सटेंस मिसयूज इज अ मेजर कॉज ऑफ डिसेबिलिटी, इतने मिलियन लोग हो गए, ये हो गया तो क्या हो, ठीक है, और भी चीज़ें हो रही। उसके अलावा कि भाई वाई शुड आई चेंज, ठीक है, आई से एंजॉय अ ग्लास ऑफ वाइन, ठीक है, मुझे आई फाइंड इट रिलैक्सिंग। लोग कहते हैं हार्ट डिजीज़ को प्रिवेंट भी करता है, वाई शुड आई स्टॉप डूइंग इट। जो डॉक्टर नूर ने कहा नहीं जी बड़ा ख़राब है ये उसके लिए, और एक ने कहा कि अपने घर का ख्याल रखें, आपका बच्चा भी पीना शुरू कर देगा अगर आप पी रहे हो, तो क्या रोल मॉडल दे। तो हमने मैसेजेस कैसे देने हैं, क्या करना है, हाउ कैन वी मेक इट वर्क। कुछ चीज़ें मैं इंग्लैंड में काम करता हूँ, लेकिन रिसर्च में काफ़ी पाकिस्तान में ज़्यादा है क्योंकि मैं पाकिस्तानी हूँ, लेकिन दूसरे मुल्कों में भी है, बांग्लादेश में भी है, श्रीलंका में भी है, इंडिया में भी है, और अफ्रीका में नाइजीरिया, कीनिया में है। आजकल हम लोग साउथ अमेरिका से बात कर रहे हैं, एक्वाडोर, क्योंकि हमारे कैनेडियन कॉलीग्स हैं, उनके साथ मिलके ब्राज़ील में भी हम काम कर रहे हैं। अच्छा, ये हर जगह प्रॉब्लम है सब्सटेंस मिसयूज़ की। उसमें 2-3 चीज़ों का एक और उन्होंने कहा कि मल्टी स्टेक होल्डर्स होने चाहिए, इंटरसेक्टोरल कोलैबोरेशन होना चाहिए। मैंने ट्रेनिंग की थी कोई लेट 80s अर्ली 90s में, अल्लाह मग़फ़िरत करे, प्रोफेसर मुबशिर was my trainer and one of the best people trainers in the world। अगर वो मुझे साइकियाट्री में ट्रेन नहीं करते तो प्रॉब्लली मैंने आज साइकियाट्रिस्ट नहीं होना था। हमने अस्पताल शुरू किया था, एक हम अस्पताल चला रहे होते, काइंड ऑफ अ बिजनेस कर रहे होते। वो भी बात करते थे मल्टी सेक्टोरल कोलैबोरेशन। तो अब उसको 25-30 साल हो गए और वही मल्टी सेक्टोरल कोलैबोरेशन। व्हाट इज़ रियली मल्टी सेक्टोरल कोलैबोरेशन, तो वो हमको सोचना है क्या, और हु इज़ इन दी हार्ट ऑफ इट। जो आई डो नॉट नो कि कितनी प्रेजेंस है उसकी, द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पर्सन जो जिसकी वजह से हम सब आज यहाँ बैठे हैं। एंड दैट इज वहाँ पे टर्म कहलाती है सर्विस यूज़र, कि ये सर्विस यूज़र है, ये यहाँ पे जो है सर्विस होगा। उसका क्या ख्याल है? जो उसको HIV भी हो गया, उसने अपने आप को एडिक्शन यूज़ भी कर रहा है। उन्होंने कराची का जिक्र किया कि कराची में एडिक्ट जो वहाँ पे है, व्हाट इज हिज कॉन्सेप्ट? आई थिंक वन ऑफ द इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग टू नो इज कि वो क्या है, किस तरह में भी हो सकता है कि कल मौजूद हों कोई सर्विस यूज़र, उसको भी हम सुने। अच्छा, फिर केयरर हैं, किसी की माँ है, किसी का बाप है, किसी की बहन है, किसी का भाई है। ये फिक्र होती है कि ये नशेई है, अब ये मेरी बेटी की शादी होगी कि नहीं होगी, उसकी जो है भाई उसका नशेई है। मेरी क्लास फेलो थी, बहुत ब्राइट, वन ऑफ द फाइनेस्ट पीपल आई हैव कम अक्रॉस। हर ब्रदर डाइड ऑफ सब्सटेंस मिसयूज, बहुत ही हैंडसम यंग मैन, और उसका तो आप देखिए घर में अ वेरी ब्राइट डॉक्टर, ब्रदर हैज दिस, 2 बहनों का 1 भाई, माशाल्लाह दे वेरी वेल टू डू, उनके देवर लैंड ओनर्स, एंड द इंडिविजुअल गेट इनटू ड्रग्स। ही डाइड एट द एज ऑफ, मैरिड था, 1 बच्चा, एंड ही डाइड एट द एज ऑफ 36-37। तो ये हमने किस तरह से करना है, वो हमको इम्पोर्टेंट है कि किस तरह से हम काम कर सकते हैं। ब्रिगेडियर साहब के साथ, उनका भी यही मिशन है, आप लोग बैठे हुए हैं, उनका भी यही मिशन है। हाउ कैन वी डू दैट कि केयरर और उसका वेयर डू वी स्टार्ट फ्रॉम? अच्छा, मल्टी मॉर्बिडिटी बहुत कॉमन है। मुझे तो प्रोफेसर शादिया बता दीजिएगा, जब आधा 30 सेकेंड्स रह जाए मैं तो उस पर बोलता रहूँगा। अच्छा, एक कॉन्सेप्ट है मल्टी मॉर्बिडिटी। मल्टी मॉर्बिडिटी कुछ लोगों का बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट रोल है, गैस्ट्रोएंटेरोलॉजिस्ट, ठीक है। आई डू नॉट नो कि कितने गैस्ट्रोएंटेरोलॉजिस्ट हैं। वन ऑफ द थिंग जो है वो लिवर इज गोइंग टू बी अफेक्टेड, ठीक है, चाहे उसको हेपेटाइटिस बी के हैं, चाहे हेपेटाइटिस सी के हैं, अल्कोहलिक लिवर के हैं, जो भी के हैं उसका। हाउ गैस्ट्रोएंटेरोलॉजिस्ट आर वी वर्किंग विद? अच्छा, ये बिजी हैं, प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं, गैस्ट्रोस्कोपीज कर रहे हैं, और दे आर बिजी। हु इज़ द नेक्स्ट पर्सन यू कैन वर्क विद और डील विद? तो मैंने आपसे जिक्र किया कि मैं एक काम कर रहा हूँ वहाँ इंग्लैंड के अंदर, इसमें सर्विस यूजर्स के साथ भी, और मेरा एक काफ़ी काम है जिसको पोस्ट नेटल डिप्रेशन पे हम माशाल्लाह यूके में द लार्जेस्ट ट्रायल इन द वर्ल्ड कर रहे हैं, ग्रुप CBT का, एंड लुकिंग एट हाउ डू वी। अच्छा, हम कहलाते हैं हार्ड टू एंगेज पॉपुलेशन। ये जो साउथ एशियन है, ना रिसर्च में हिस्सा लेते हैं, ना सर्विसेज की यूज़ करते हैं, तो हमारी एक्सपर्टीज़ माशाल्लाह है हाउ टू इंगेज विद देम। सो सम ऑफ द थिंग्स विच वी डू इज़ कि हम क्रिएटिव आर्ट्स वालों के साथ काम करते हैं, मीडिया स्टडीज़ वालों के साथ काम करते हैं, कंप्यूटर साइंसेज वालों के साथ काम करते हैं। तो हमने कुछ छोटी फिल्में बनाई हुई हैं, हम उधर जाते हैं मस्जिदों में भी, मंदिर में भी, और जो गुरुद्वारे हैं उनमें भी जाते हैं, साउथ एशियन पॉपुलेशन के साथ है। एंड एक चीज़ जो है वो कल्चर को समझना बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है। अच्छा, कल्चर को हम क्योंकि हंड्रेड्स ऑफ ईयर्स साथ रहे हैं साउथ एशिया में, चाहे हमारे रिलीजन डिफरेंट हैं, लेकिन हमारा कल्चर बड़ा सिमिलर है, ठीक है। तो अगर हम बात करते हैं ब्लैक मैजिक की, तो वो भी बात करते हैं उस किसी की, एंड लुक एट के उसको किस तरह से करना है। तो मेरा मैसेज ये है कि ट्राई एंड अंडरस्टैंड कि किस किस को हम इन्वॉल्व कर सकते हैं। एक और चीज़ मैंने उधर सीखी है, मैका कहलाती है, ठीक है। मैका इज मेक एवरी कॉन्टैक्ट काउंट, ठीक है। आपका ये हमारे साथ सुलेमान आए हैं, तो सुलेमान ने मुझे एयरपोर्ट से किया, तो 4 बार मेरी फ्लाइट थी उसके ऊपर, तो आई हैड दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी कि जो हमारे गाड़ी चला रहे थे और मुझे एयरपोर्ट तक ले गए, सो आई हैव दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी टू स्पीक टू हिम, एंड अब मेरे जहन में था हाउ डू आई मेक दिस कॉन्टैक्ट नाउ, ठीक है। एक मुझे बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट मुझे चीज़ लगती है एजुकेशन, चाहे वो साइको एजुकेशन हो, कोई दूसरी किस्म की एजुकेशन हो। सो आई वॉज एबल टू स्पीक टू हिम कि तुम्हारा जो गांव है वहाँ पढ़ना क्या हो रहा है, किस तरह पढ़ते हैं, क्या करते हैं, to making that about 25 minutes drive count। अच्छा, आप सब लोग कहीं ना कहीं हैं, किधर जा रहे हैं, किससे बात कर रहे हैं, आपके जहन में सब्सटेंस मिसयूज़ होना चाहिए, बिकॉज इसमें कोई गलत बात नहीं है। the number of people dying for it, the number of families being affected is huge, unimaginable. अगर आप इतने जो बिलियंस ऑफ रुपीज़ हैं उसकी अगर हम सेविंग करा सकें तो हमारा जो हेल्थ कार्ड प्रोग्राम है, हाउ कैन वी यूटिलाइज इट बेटर? जो हमारे बच्चे मर रहे हैं डायरिया से, जो मर रहे हैं हमारे न्यूनेटल मॉर्टेलिटी से, जो बाकी और चीज़ों से मर रहे हैं, हाउ कैन वी डू दैट कि इसकी डाइवर्ट उधर हो जाए? पर उससे पहले हमको डाइवर्ट करने के लिए बड़ी मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी। और ये नहीं कह सकते कि नहीं कि ब्रिगेडियर साहब ने काम करना है या यूएनएड ने काम करना है। तो वो सही कह रहे थे कि आप लोग कैसे करोगे और आप लोगों के नेक्स्ट कौन करेगा? ठीक है, आपके बहन भाई हैं, आपके अम्मा पापा हैं, कोई ना कोई छादिया खा रहा होगा, कोई पान खा रहा होगा, कोई बीड़ी ले रहा होगा, उन्होंने गुटखे का जिक्र किया। So it's important to look at each person's individual role, or inshallah we should be able to make a difference. So I would now pass it on to the other panel members, and thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to come and talk to you people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's wonderful to learn from your experiences, and now I would like Mr. Ayub, I think, sitting next to Dr. Nusrat. So kindly please start your talk.
First of all, I would like to thank the management of this conference, University of Central Punjab and Phoenix Foundation for Research and Development for providing me this opportunity. I would like to talk about the area which my organization has been involved in the years, which is basically capacity building the professionals who are involved in substance use treatment and prevention field. We at the Drug Advisory Program see that in countries, particularly like in Pakistan, there is a lack of evidence-based intervention. What we do, whether it's in the field of prevention or in treatment, we are not following the evidence-based intervention. So the plight of people who are suffering from substance use disorder, they are in treatment facilities. But when you go around and see how they are being treated in terms of providing them treatment, those treatment services are not up to mark. Those services are not according to the standards which are set internationally for them. So there is a need that these professionals, and those professionals mainly include psychologists, because whenever I interact with psychologists mainly, because we have been working with psychologists, like a huge number of them over the years, because these curriculums, this universal treatment curriculum we call, which we have developed like almost like 12 years ago, and it's being implemented in 77 countries of the world, which is basically to train professionals in the field of substance use treatment. So these curriculums, we interact with psychologists a lot, and in Pakistan we have trained more than 500 professionals, and I think more than 70% of them are psychologists, and they are working in substance use treatment field. So in these curriculums, we understand that it's very important that research and science-based interventions need to be important. So psychologists are very significant roles. The other side is like prevention. Like this morning, earlier today, a lot of approaches were being discussed, and particularly the way, like say no to drugs and other things. But the science, prevention science tells us that some of the interventions which we often see commonly happening are not science-based. Like these fearful techniques, these don't work. Like you have to be in line with science-based. Science tells us that you cannot. It's a brain disease, and it has got genetic and psychosocial reasons behind it. So you have to base your intervention according to the science. So there is also international standards for prevention work. There's a science available for substance use prevention. So whatever intervention we promote or we are engaged in, it has to be according to the standards. This is what we believe at Drug Advisory Program. So our programs in Pakistan, like I'm coming to this university the second time. First I was here about 3 years ago. There was one of the program in Lahore, and we had these drug and smoke-free campuses. And one of this university, I was here for that campaign. So like in Pakistan, there are the motivation is there, the opportunity is there, and above all, psychologists like you, the committed are there. So the only thing you need to understand is, so when you are in the field of substance use treatment or prevention, you have to go for evidence-based intervention. We at Colombo Plan also provide credentialing services, like we certified addiction treatment workers. We do offer exams, we call it ICAP certification. We have ICAP level 1, ICAP level 2, 3 and 4, and then now we have ICAP prevention credential. These credentials are offered to those professionals who work in the field of substance use treatment or prevention, and these are internationally recognized credentials. So with all these capacity building initiatives and credentialings, we try to professionalize the workforce, and we are committed. Pakistan is one of our member countries, like Colombo Plan is an intergovernmental organization established 1951, and Pakistan is the founding member, and we presently have 28 members. So we work in collaboration with Ministry of Narcotics Controls in Islamabad and collaborate with partners, and Phoenix Foundation has been our partners 2016 to 19 to implement one of our treatment program for women in Lahore. So we work for the capacity building and promote evidence-based intervention, both in the field of prevention and treatment. I will stop it here and I will take it further whenever there is a question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for sharing your experiences at Colombo Plan, and especially emphasizing the role of psychologists in the intervention of drug use disorder. Thank you, sir. Now I would like Dr. Iqbal to kindly start his talk. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, dear audience. After the tea, Dusra Salam. So first of all, I must thank Department of Psychology here at University of Central Punjab, especially Dr. Shazia Hassan, and of course Dr. Noor from Phoenix Foundation. I am basically a clinician, so I would be very, very brief, I promise. I know we have to go home, but the subject itself is huge. Just believe me. I have been in this, although I'm working as a general adult psychiatrist for the last several years, but my life before that have always been with substance misuse in one form or the other. And sometimes I reflect back, the first time I came into psychiatry and my first rotation for drug addiction units, detox, and I was so depressed, I said addiction में लगा दिया है, ये नशा करते हैं, नशा करके आएंगे, detox होकर चले जाएंगे, there will be no kind of variety, there will be no learning experience. Our role as professionals, health professionals is important. First of all, we have to work in collaboration with them, but don't forget, it is not only mental health professionals. We have to work in collaboration with medical specialists, because people come with, by the time they arrive to you, they have lots of medical complications, right? And sometimes with people chronic medical disorders, they start using drugs or other addictions. So we cannot work lonely, right? This is, and quickly touching two important points from the speakers before. One was that our one speaker mentioned about HIV and spread of AIDS and HIV. So the point I was going to raise, the time at that time was not sufficient, that our main problem as compared to the rest of the modern world is, I think one is unsafe injecting practices, of course. The other problem is quite hidden and unidentified, which we feel shame, like sexual transmission. So we all know, although there is very little research in it due to limitations, but the most important point, which all my health related colleagues will agree, that the infected blood transfusion. If you go to the blood banks, the rules and the guidelines are very limited to control them. And the lots of, when I was working in addiction unit in the same first job, I came across a number of times, we admitted somebody for detox, helped them to transfuse the blood because they were so anemic. When we discharged them, the next day we found in the outpatient in the same condition, they actually sold 2 pints of their blood into a blood bank. So this is happening regularly. So these people, the infected blood, the people coming in emergency, anybody who doesn't find blood, they have to have a blood from somewhere. So this is something which, again, we have to work in collaboration with whosoever controls and etc. The other important point, again, is related to my own talk, which is these days I'm thinking very seriously, is a hidden pandemic. Is not actually substance, it is behavioral addiction on games, video games and screens. But Dr. Nusrat, when I was talking about healthy and non-healthies, again, so when I teach my trainees, I always say it is actually everybody is addicted to something or the other. It is part and parcel of life, but where to draw a line sometime? I give you a good example before I go. I promised I would be brief. It's a layman actually. I was a relative of one of my patients. He said, Doctor Sahab, koi nuskha dasso. It is an Asian who in UK. Koi nuskha dasso, weight lose karna. And I said, first of all, you need to start doing exercise. Your job is very stagnant. He said, I do regularly play football. I said, how long, how many days in a week and how much? He said, every day. And how long you spend in the field? He says, until the battery of my phone doesn't go dead. So, this is the life we're living in. People have lost the will of course he was sarcastic, but I think this is reality what is happening. So with these remarks, I would leave evidence here. Thank you very much again.